Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Regular viewers will already have noticed that my beard has gone. My wife suggested it was looking a bit straggly and I should take it off and start again, so I've done that. But the only thing is, it has somewhat exposed my little wobbly double chin. I was unaware of it being there because my beard has hidden it. Don't worry, the beard will be back and the chin will be hidden within a week or so. Now, the first story today, and I have many stories today, so do please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Keep up with them. I've got about 10 stories. I don't know if I'll get through all 10. There's just so many. The SNP, the gift that keeps on giving. But we're going to work our way through these stories. Now, the first one is a claim by Alex Salmond that Nicola Sturgeon did not resign. Oh yes, she stood there and she gave a resignation speech, but that was little more than a face-saving exercise. They allowed her to do that so that she wouldn't be embarrassed at the manner of her parting. Basically, she was asked to resign, or told that if she didn't, she'd be fired. So she called that announcement and said, blah, 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 I resigned, blah, 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 blah. Nobody believes a word of it. We all know that something was up. The timing stinks. Well, I think the timing stinks so badly, and Alex Salmond is correct. I don't often agree with him, but on this one, I stand foursquare beside him in looking at this because I think he is speaking the truth. I think Nicola was asked to jump, because she was causing so many problems, or would have potentially caused even more problems had she remained as First Minister. And so we're going to take a look at this article, see what Alex is saying, and look at what happened. So here goes. So here we are. Nicola Sturgeon, latest. Former First Minister was forced to quit, claims Alex Salmond. And I think he's completely right. It comes hours after the SNP auditors quit in the wake of Peter Murrell's arrest. Like I said, I did the video yesterday about that. It's how bad is it when even your accountants want to distance themselves from you and have nothing to do with you. They want to walk away and maintain their dignity, I suppose. Anyway, Nicola Sturgeon was forced to quit as First Minister, Alex Salmond has claimed, as he asserted that the circumstances of her resignation had delegitimised Humza Yousaf's position as her successor. And again, the video yesterday where I said that given the timing of the police investigation, if it had happened when they should have done it, which was before the election, before the vote went through, when they first had enough evidence and circumstance to arrest him and question him. If that had happened before the election, there is without doubt zero chance at all that Humza Yousaf would have won that election. I mean, remembering he had the full backing of the party machinery, and yet he only managed to scrape over that line by a few votes. It was so close. But given what was about to happen, had that happened earlier, there is no way that Humza Yousaf would have won that. And so, it absolutely is the case that he is not the legitimate leader of the party. And of course, we've covered it, but he can't even control the party. Nicola Sturgeon could. Nicola Sturgeon had the force of personality. She could maintain discipline. He cannot. Half his party don't like him, and he's already getting factional infighting. So there's no way he's the legitimate leader. Anyway, I'm waffling. Let's get back in. Mr. Salmond suggested that Miss Sturgeon was forced to resign due to her decision in January to apply to the Supreme Court to contest the government's move to block the gender recognition reforms and then not follow through. He said, abandoning halfway through is to invite inevitable failure. And yet she should be used to failure. The SNP fail at everything. So clearly it wasn't the intention to go when Nicola went. It wasn't a planned departure in that sense, he told the Times. Well, first of all, she got herself in a position where she pushed this gender reform bill through, a bill deeply, deeply unpopular. Not just across the country where it is deeply, deeply unpopular, but even within her own party, there were people who didn't like it. Ash Regan famously quit over it. It is one of those things. It was the politicians wanted to show that they were virtuous and wonderful people. And look, we're going to do this and protect this tiny minority. And yet 99% of people didn't want it. They're saying no, there was no safeguarding of women, no safeguarding of women's safe spaces, of women's sports, of children being exposed to grown men naked in changing rooms, things like that. They just pushed this through because they wanted this. I didn't want to be seen as Islamophobes and that. I mean, they didn't even at the committee stage, and I've covered this, they didn't even at the committee stage have women who would be affected come and speak to the committee. They had lots of trans men come and speak, but no actual women who were victims of trans men had come forward. And that kind of stinks, doesn't it? And it probably... it was pushed through before Christmas because Kate Forbes was on maternity leave, and they knew that if she was there, she'd have voted against it, and then would have had to resign the cabinet. But she would have voted against it, so it wouldn't have been a united cabinet. And if someone of high profile as Kate Forbes had voted against it, maybe a few others would have girded their loins and voted against it. But anyway, it didn't go through. It did go through. But then Rishi Sunak in Westminster sort of put the kibosh on it. Now, she said, I'm going to the court. And this is the point Alex Salmond is making, is that she says she's going to go to the Supreme Court. She's going to get this overturned. But then obviously, the lawyers have come in and said, well, don't. Because if you go to the Supreme Court, you will lose. And you will have wasted millions of pounds on a case that we're telling you you cannot win before you go. So if you do go and you waste millions of pounds, you're giving the opposition ammunition. And so she abandoned it. But what she should have done is not said that she's going to the Supreme Court in the first place. That was stupid. She should have said, we're going to have a look at the options and speak to the lawyers to see if there is a case at the Supreme Court, rather than just saying you're going. So, of course, then she didn't go, and that opens up another whole can of worms. And that's when the boys in the back room, of course, will just get up and start saying, well, actually, you're now becoming a bit of liability. We know that the police are investigating this. We know we got this happening. Nicola, for God's sake, you're going to have to go. Anyway, getting back in, the SNP obviously has questions to answer, said Alex Salmond, and the problem is that it delegitimises Humza Yousaf, which we covered. It comes just hours after the accountants that audit the SNP accounts resigned. Johnson Carmichael, they resigned because they sort of looked at the party finances and said that we cannot audit this, we cannot sign off on these accounts. Because they must be that bad that even the accountants, and let me tell you, accountants are good at fixing things like this. Accountants can work wonders. They're magicians with numbers. Never mind the double entry. I'm a master of the triple entry. It's just it is. You can do a lot of things, and it is only the beginning of the tax year now, which means you can hide a lot of stuff in last year's sundry expenses and move on with a clean slate. But it is there. And if you're accountants, though, if you've got like top accountants who can't tidy up and legitimise the accounts of your party, you're in deep trouble. In fact, just as a sideline on their accounts, one of my good viewers contacted me and DM'd me, so it's not in anywhere there, but they sort of gave a little bit of information and said that the accounts that the SNP have announced, said this is where their financial situation is, isn't actually the truth. Where they said they had about $1 million and something in the bank, it's nowhere near that. Apparently, it's just a couple of £100,000, which is nice if it's your own personal money, but for an organisation like that, it's worryingly low. They have salaries to pay, they have buildings to rent, they have cars to run, etc. 200,000 is clearly nothing. They could be bankrupt. Financially bankrupt. They've been morally bankrupt for about 8 years, ever since Nicola Sturgeon took over. But they could be in a very bad place, and it would be a crying shame if they were actually forced into administration. I think there would be tears shed. Certainly I would have tears streaming down my face. Tears of laughter, obviously. So there's the problem you have with the SNP. They've just basically pushed their last First Minister. They got rid of Salmond. To be fair, Salmond actually resigned. Claims were made against him. He resigned. He got no support from the party. No support. Nicola Sturgeon sort of side-eyed him and blanked him and just ghosted him, really. And then he won his case because he was completely innocent. And I will say, despite not liking the man, not liking his politics, I will completely stand and say he was absolutely, completely innocent on trumped-up charges. And it was telling that the likes of Sturgeon and the hierarchy within the SNP did not stand by him. So fair enough to him. So anyway, I shall round off there. We'll come up and we will finish the video. So there we are. I do think Alex Salmond is spot on, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But I think certainly Nicola Sturgeon was visited. She had a visit from the men in suits, the backroom boys. They will have told her in no uncertain terms that she has to go. They'll have said that they would like to fire her, but that they're going to be prepared to give her the dignity of allowing her to resign for invent reason, whatever reason you want. Just to save face. It will save face for her, and it will make them look like they're not committing a coup d'etat, because effectively it was a coup d'etat in Scotland in this change. Now, why do I think Salmond is right? One only has to look at Nicola Sturgeon. She is someone who is very vocal, who's very out there, very in your face. She expresses her opinions at all events. It's someone who's leaving politics from a very high position, would be expected to go into one of those sort of sinecure jobs that, you know, senior politicians get when they leave politics, you know, on the board of a company here, you know, the chairman of a committee there, that sort of thing. She has got none of that. No one wants to give her anything. They're all distancing themselves from her because they are toxic. Now, you know, that in itself is why I think the truth is there, because you haven't heard anything. She's still a backbencher, but you don't hear her speak. She's not putting herself out on television. She's not doing interviews. She's not raising her profile as she transcends and transitions into a new role, a new public role, public financed role, or some senior, you know, director of a bank and that thing. You know, that sort of thing that normally these people would get. None of that. So that's why I think it was pushed rather than jumped, but was just allowed to give the impression of jumping. And it is terrible. But now, as we call her, the Goblin of Govan, the Goblin of Govan she's taken her gimp with her. They've gone, and now we have the new one, the Bollock from Pollock. He is now there, and he probably won't last very long either, given what's happening, but watch this space. Anyway, shall round off there. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please do hit that subscribe button right there, ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, just keep an eye out and see if you ever see Nicola Sturgeon again, and goodbye.